And welcome to the Robinhood Capitalist. I'm your host, DJ Flores. With me, as always, my trusted coach and mentor, Coach Stacey B. What's up, Coach?
What's happening, DJ? It's a
Uh,
beautiful, beautiful day.
it is. This is the way I love these Thursdays. I love starting this off this way. It's always so fun to just have this conversation, and especially after Tuesday's show. Becky, what did you think? I mean, just obviously we're going to dive into it and we'll get deeper into this here shortly for everyone. But what did you first impressions? What were your thoughts? Yeah, give us a little feedback of what you thought of the
Well,
five voices and Becky.
Becky is obviously a great coach. You could tell she loves what she does. She cares about people, and wants to help people change their lives for the better. So she was just awesome. And I'm a fan of knowing thyself and the tools that we can have at our disposal to do that. And the five voices is just a great tool. And so it's going to be fun digging in a little bit deeper to these things.
I can't. I'll tell you. I thought I knew everything from doing the trainings, but this is where I love that this was kind of that moment that was like, whoa, there's even more to this. Like what the one thing that blew me away, and I think I shared it in a message and post to Becky, but I didn't know that your leading two voices could be guardian and nurturer together. That was like to me, that was kind of like, whoa, hold on. That's like a what person is that? Show me one of those because I don't really. Oh, it's an interesting mix. I didn't think, at least in my view of it, I didn't think that was even possible. So,
Yeah,
um,
well, and that's kind of what you look for. You look for because there's several conflicts that we can have. We can have a me versus other people conflict, and that's where if I can know my style and know yours, I can connect a little better. But we can also have a me versus me conflict, right? So if I've got two competing voices that are above that energy line of importance within me, then there might be times where I really think, boy, I really want to be this connector, but for whatever reason I've got this guardian voice that's competing with it. And so there's a bit of a me versus me conflict, and knowing that allows us to go into the hard work of behavior change and doing the things we need to do to help and fix and make ourselves and our lives better.
mm, on that, coach hits it on the head like he always does. Me versus me or you versus you, which is really what this game of life in the end is all about. But let's dig right into this and get started on this whole journey of the game of life and you versus you.
You get one heartbeat song. Take it seriously. This is your masterpiece. Don't forget to dream and taste the colors in the air you breathe. It's your masterpiece. Go ahead and feel it all. Don't stop till it is beautiful. Don't stop till it is beautiful. Don't stop till it is beautiful.
All right, so coach nails it on the head like he always does. It is you versus you. I really, again, I see life, and it's again, these are just views. These are just our opinions. We're not telling you this is the truth. There is no truth except for whatever's the truth for you. But this game of life, and it is a game to me. I think if we can get that mindset that it's us versus us, the whole good wolf battle, the whole battle of the two wolves, which is where it all starts. If we just, again, nothing in life is simple, but if we can simplify it or make it easier to understand, it's a lot easier to figure this game out. And I think this is one great example of what really those five voices and those like Coach Stacey was talking about, those competing voices, is this internal battle that the story of two wolves is all about. It's you have one inside of you, and again, it sounds very very pointed, very harsh. It says one is evil, one is good. Oh, evil. I don't want to be evil. Well, we all have evil. We all have good. We all have all of these things in us and are capable of every single one of them. So we can relate in every way. And one is anger. The opposite is joy. One is envy. The opposite is peace, sorrow, love, regret, grief. I mean, evil. There's so many different emotions and things that we can battle and face every single day in this journey. And if you don't know what voice or who you really are inside, it's hard to know what feelings you're even battling against. So I love that you said me versus me. I want to bring back up the chart for anybody who didn't catch on Tuesday. This is what we're really deep diving into. Now, there are a lot of different tests like this. Coach Stacey uses for focal points something very similar that we'll probably dive into as well. But this is the five voices, and I really think, again, for me at least, what made life or understanding the battles that I was constantly facing, this me versus me, like Coach Stacey said, was understanding first me. Well, who is me, and who is this other version of me that I'm fighting against? And with knowing these voices, it will give you that advantage to know, okay, well, this is me, but this is also me. And it kind of, the contradictory, like we started off with, a guardian and nurturer. I thought there's no possible way. Like you're either one or the other, but you can't be both. No chance. Guardian has to be a nemesis, like me, but it's not. And that's what's amazing. But that's what makes us all, again. So if we can just simplify this game of life, there's five characters that you can plug different attributes into and make them stronger. Again, you're now creating your avatar in your season of football game of life, whatever game you're playing, whatever video game, and there's this meat suit, this person that you keep making the wrong choices, keep doing the wrong thing, you can end up looking like this guy, and especially if you think you know all the right answers. And in those pictures, I thought I knew all the right answers, but I didn't have any clue of who I really was or who I was even battling against, or thought I was battling against the world before I figured out this game is just me versus me. Okay, so how do I take on this game? And then it was really just the five voices that kind of connected everything from there. But Coach, I guess with focal point, you guys do a very similar test.
Yeah, so not only focal point, but I'm also a founding partner from the John Maxwell team. Maxwell Leadership is what it's called now, and both of our organizations use the DISC assessment, DISC. Very similar. DISC is about behaviors. Behavior is I mean, it's our primary form of communication in many ways. Is how we behave, how we show up, and so when I start working with a client, the very first thing I do is go through the assessment to help them gain the self-awareness of who they are, and then also try to help them be able to spot what what somebody else is. So I can communicate better with you if I know that you are an I, because in the DISC scale, just like you're a connector on the five voices, you would be an I on the DISC assessment. And knowing that, then I can adjust my language just a little bit. I can adjust my energy just a little bit, and we can connect on a better level and hopefully accomplish more together. So very similar to what Becky was saying, when we work with teams, we'll do a team where everyone does the assessment. We'll do a team debrief and then kind of share with one another where everyone falls on the scale so that they can learn to get along and accomplish more things together.
Mm, agree. And I like that you went to team. I think once we realize that the game of life becomes a lot easier and a lot better with teams versus trying to kind of take on this game by yourself. Um, it's
One is too small of a number to do something really significant.
Oh, I like that. I like that. It absolutely is. Simon Sinek, I think he also, another way he kind of paints it is, he says, as humans, we weren't made to be individual and do things on our own. We were made to adapt and grow, but we were made to do that as communities and as teams. Um, and I think that's where we as leaders, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, I think, at least in my experience with some of the leaders I've had throughout my journey, throughout my career, it seems like they lose track of team, or at least the value throughout all of the team, and understanding, or it's again, I don't know who I heard it from, but it's the whole idea of the Maslow's pyramid, that self, and I think it might be Simon Sinek too, but self actualization is at the top. That shouldn't be. It should be at the bottom. The you need to but it's also, it seems like everything piles up instead of realizing that the team and everything at the bottom of even that chart is where it all is, the foundation. Like your team, from your home team to your professional team to mentors. Maybe you have a mentoring team. Maybe you have a group of people that you're going to constantly, or that you triangulate with. And triangulate ideas. I like to bounce a lot of stuff off a coach, and then I'll get a different view from somebody who's more of a guardian and more of a pioneer, and then I'll switch. And again, like coach said, it's knowing who you're talking to, but then also using those voices and understanding those voices to really, this is a chart that's from Giants as well. We didn't show this yesterday, but I mean, this is really a great example of kind of the variation, or the different varying voices that you need throughout. Just I guess for me, this was a great picture example of, okay, if you're a startup company, these are the voices that you need as a solid foundation to really have that dream, that culture, that passion that you need, because it's going to suck. No matter what we do, like I said on Tuesday, whatever we do to begin with, some things we're just naturally gifted in, but most things, when we start doing them, we suck. Like, you got to get through the suck. Like, you're going to have to learn. But if you want it bad enough, that's where then again those different voices come involved, and then the establishment, and then the growth. But it's really understanding you first, and that's why we've been so hardcore on this self uh, understanding, this personal development, this self awareness. Because once you can really grasp what you are, you know how you respond to those other voices. Again, whether it's the disc and you're going from the I or the D, and you're knowing how you're dealing with those, or it's the five voices. But whatever you're using to really just further understand you, once you really can hone down to understanding you, it's a lot easier to tying that to other voices. Now, with your experience, coach, working with new startups, I mean, obviously, I'm sure you see that it's probably a lot, and you said it's starting with them understanding, and really a lot of conversation and diving deeper. Steven Martinez, shout out to our doctor
Dr.
here, for
Steve.
Dr. Steve, but he says the same thing. It's a long conversation. It's not, like we get from other experiences, other doctors. You go in and, oh, well, you're this, and I'm going to give you this, and that's it. And they don't even ask you a really deep dive or understand you. So how can you understand you? And that's the difference that Dr. Steve gives to his clients, and that's what we need to do also as coaches and leaders. But with you doing what you do, and you get them to focus on themselves, and then get them to really focus outside on the business. At what point do you really dive deeper into the understanding of their team, and really breaking down the levels of their different team, and how to kind of manage that?
So pretty early on, because the first thing I typically will work with a new client on is just clarity in general. So clarity growth, leadership are the three big things that I work with folks on. And that clarity, it's clarity of self, understanding your values, your principles, the mission. I try to help, like if we were working together, DJ, I would say, let's look ahead X number of years. Maybe it's a 5-year window. And what is the ideal story of DJ? Tell me what that looks like. What life are you living? What are you doing? Who are you doing it with? Let's paint some pictures. And then we work back to kind of help you chart a course of how you're going to get there in 5 years and what are the strategies that you're going to use. So what we try to do is we try to say, let's stop looking at that it's not all about business. We look at most of our goals are like related to business, business, business. I've got these goals for that. Well, what if we set our goals for the life we want to live, and then build the business to support the life instead? And so, but in those early stages, as we're going through the assessment and we're learning about ourselves, we're also saying, okay, now apply this to the people that are on your team and around you. Who are you surrounded with now? We tend to attract the exact same people that we are. And so a lot of times we don't have diversity of thought because we've attracted the same type of people that we are. And so we just kind of look at the folks and say, now, what would you guess that DJ is? Well, here's what I think DJ is. Okay. How can we communicate better with DJ to maybe motivate and manage him better? And also with the assessments, you get the feedback on these are some things that DJ would need to be motivated and things like that. So using all the tools, it starts pretty early on, but the original focus really is when I do my debrief on one of these assessments normally lasts about an hour and a half. And we go into it's like a 49 or 50 page report that we dig into for about an hour and a half.
Wow.
And so most of that is about self, but we also look and start identifying the key members and people around us. A lot of times we talk about like my spouse and I, we've told the story. I've known my wife forever, but we're opposites. I'm very, very high I, which is, extroverted and talkative and just really out there, and she's very high S. She's secure, slow pace, introverted, doesn't like change a lot. And so we kind of complement each other. But that's always fun when I'm working with someone. They start to analyze their kids and their spouse and everything else. It's kind of like a physical therapist or a doctor. I do some work in the fitness side of things too, and I was working with a group that have club Pilates, and one of their leaders was saying, riding the subway, they're looking at people's posture and analyzing, what they could do to make that person's life better. That's kind of the exact same thing we're doing. You start to spot it in other people. That look, I see that person there. I think I know how I can connect a little better and deeper with this person, and we can work better together. It's kind of fun once you get into it.
It, uh, uh, I'll, so it's no surprise, but obviously your wife sounds very similar to Maggie, so I think they'll get along. But in that point, I will say that I truly believe again this picture I'll show it again, but you see on the inside, and I kind of even play with that with our logo, but the yin and yang. Opposites attract. I mean, there's songs that say it. And it's for a reason. And I think it's understanding though, and that's where it was hard for me in the beginning because, like you said, with those differing opinions, especially the certain ones, like you mentioned with your wife, change. Not a fan of that. Not wanting to go out and kind of be involved in the world. More of a kind of slow pace to yourself. Kind of keep it and just to the cuff and a little bit more guarded. It's obviously there's been a some of those things could be what feels like this until you can really understand, well, this is just her. And now you said she's more of an S and not an I. And so by understanding that, and that's, I mean, one thing for relationships, but again, you hear this advice for relationships, you hear this advice for kids, for doing this, for families, and they play a lot of teaching is different for family than the way I've been in sports my whole life. I've been obsessed with sports my whole life. I've kind of just really been, I was always kind of that player coach. I always liked to be that player coach on the field. That's why I even ended up kind of coaching after. Um, I always enjoyed coaching, but I think what I enjoyed more was seeing people work together, not really shine by themselves. And that was the big thing for me, was tying that to the understanding of them working together. But I think that's where if we can just go to the basics of sports and in sales, I mean, that was a lot of the hiring managers. As soon as they knew I had a sports background, I was like, oh, well, everybody in sports is this good. Well, what does that mean? Like, explain that. What do you mean? Everybody in sports is good in this or good in that. Well, why? Like, if you can explain to people why, as a leader, instead of just spouting these things that you hear all the time, I would have understand a lot sooner, which would have helped me. But I will tell you why. It's the natural disciplines that you get from sports. It's especially with good coaches and with good guidance and leaders and good teammates. They will, some of the best teams. Uh, Great example. Denver Nuggets just won the championship. I mean, this is the first time in history they've won. They have, besides Joker, which, shout out to Joker, he's amazing. But besides, I mean, there's a bunch of Denver seemed like there were nobody. Everybody always talking about LeBron and Lakers, Steph Curry and the Warriors. This and but nobody's talking about. And it's when the best teams can work as a team and not just the superstars that are on there. Tom Brady, another great example of that with the Patriots. But it's understanding your team and putting your team always first. And that's
So,
where I
so
think,
understanding the team is huge. Let's say, as a leader, you're a pioneer on the voices scale, or a high D on the disc scale, but you're dealing with some folks on your team who are going to be slower to act. They're going to be more guarded. They're going to want to get more details. Well, if we're not careful, if we're just using our style to lead and to delegate and empower them to do things, if they don't get started the way I would get started right away, I might be tempted to say, man, that person has no work ethic. They're not getting it done. I can't trust anybody around me. And you start to think very negative thoughts. But if I know that you are one of the styles, and you're a voice that is not going to be as quick to jump onto something, then I can do the work ahead of time to bring you along and to pull you, instead of trying to push you. And then we're going to get along a lot better together. Eisenhower used to use a string, and he would say, he would say, watch what happens when I push it. If I want to get the string over here, he'd push it and it would just crumple up. He says, no, watch what happens when I pull it. And he would pull it and it would go wherever he wanted it to go. And that's kind of what this is all about. This is about, how can I pull along this team so that we can do something together? And if you don't know their style, you're going to make assumptions about why they do certain things they do. You're going to make assumptions about the things they say and how they say it, when in reality, that's just their style. And we can adjust and adapt to one another and get along a whole lot better if we know.
now digging deeper on teams, because I think buzzwords around, obviously, culture, quiet quitting, all of these weird things. But again, to me, I didn't quite. I mean, if somebody would have asked me, I'd have said, "Yeah, the leadership sucks." Yeah, I stopped believing in it because they don't. I don't believe in them. I think that's mostly what it's become. They start saying culture, they're saying all these other things, but it's we've come to a point that I feel like, at least in the corporate world or corporate America, there is different teams in a team, and there shouldn't be different teams. Like, there shouldn't be an executive team that that is super excited about everything, while your worker bees or your front line are have a totally different vibe of what's going on. There's clearly is something. The message is not going all the way through, which people would say culture or this or that. But I think it's just they're not uh, being a complete team. They're not uh, adding up all of the voices, like you're saying, and connecting those dots. How can, if you have somebody dealing with that, how can you really, I guess, where do they start if they start to feel like that? Um, if they are part of a leadership and they feel like their team has these inner teams. Again, I like to use the example. It was, and anybody watching will know this, but it's like a high school. Some teams, some companies feel like going to a grade school dance, and there's the boys over there And well, the cool kids are over here, and the nerds are over there, and the this is over there, and the that's over there. Like, hold on, why are we separated? And then eventually, like something happens, then everybody gets excited, and then we're all together. What? How do we get that quicker to get everybody together on that team instead of having these separations? I think that's what we need to focus on more as leaders, as coaches, as you know, executive teams.
So as leaders, we have to remember that our most important job for the organization is people. We can't get caught up in the day-to-day minutia of what's going on. We have to focus on our people. And we know that leadership, everything rises and falls on leadership. And so whatever your leadership ability is, that becomes the lid that your organization or your team is going to be held down by. And so right now, for example, let's say you're a level 5 out of 10 leader. You're going to surround yourself with other people, and strong leaders typically don't necessarily want to work for weaker leaders. So most likely you're going to surround yourself with 2s and 3s, and you're going to be doing a yeoman's work to try to bring them along, but you're going to be stuck at that 5. And so first step is always work on yourself. Raise your leadership ability. And there's whether we're using Maxwell or whoever your voice is out there that you want to listen to, but Maxwell has lots of great books and tools to help you get through that. As a coach, that's what I do, is help raise people's leadership lid. One of the things I'm working through now is that I've got a program called the Leadership Accelerator that I help people through. But what we have to do is if we can raise our level of leadership, then we can start to raise the level of leaders around us so that our organizational leadership score grows, and then we can accomplish a lot more. But you were talking about the competing kind of how the vision stays with the executive team and doesn't work its way down. One of my favorite books on team building is Patrick Lencioni's classic, the 5 dysfunctions of a team. And so he talks about there's a lack of trust.
Never heard that.
There's lack of trust, a lack of commitment, a lack of accountability, a lack of good, healthy conflict, and then a focus on the wrong results. And one of the things he talks about in the book is you need a cascading communication. So that executive team, they're just not doing the hard work of a leader of having that information cascade the way it should. And what that happens is it builds silos within the organization. So the tech team and the sales team and the ops team and the HR team, they're all doing their own thing instead of being in alignment with what the overall goal of the organization really is. So what leadership is about keeping the organization in alignment. We know our core values, we know our culture that we want to protect, we know the goal of the organization, the vision, and everybody is working in concert to get us there. And that cascading communication, when it's not there, that's when those walls go up and you start to see a lot of dysfunction in the teams. And there is a lack of trust, because I can't trust that DJ is going to tell me everything I need to do from the sales perspective so that I can support from the ops perspective to get it done. And when there's a lack of trust, then there's no way that we're going to really be open with our communication with each other. And if we're not open with our communication with each other, we're not going to commit to what it is we need to do. And if we're not going to commit, we certainly aren't going to be accountable. And then the results are going to be out of whack. And so his pyramid, Lencioni's pyramid, is really, really spot on for teams.
Well, we definitely we'll have to highlight that on the show after, because yeah, I mean, it sounds like it will connect a lot of dots. But I like that you went to Maxwell, and there's a story. I don't know if it's from his book or just something that I heard, but he talks about a story of taking over a church. And he's younger at the time, aggressive, thought he could go in and just kind of bull his way in. And I guess if you're shaking your head, so you know the story, can you dive deeper into that story and that journey and what he really ended up learning from that experience? Because that's one of the stories that I go to anytime I think of John Maxwell, but also just think of leadership. I mean, he says, and we'll let you tell the story and we'll dive deeper into it.
Well, his whole journey is pretty fascinating, because going from a faith leader who started with a really, really small church and grew it, and then went to another church and was able to grow that one, and went to another one and grew it to huge, the church in San Diego, for like thousands of people that were attending. But what he started doing, or when he first got started, he realized that something is missing. And so a couple of things happened for him. He ran into a fellow named Cantmeyer, I think it was Kurt Cantmeyer, who asked him a very important question. What's your plan for growth? What is your plan for personal growth? And Maxwell says, I didn't really know how to answer that. I realized I didn't have one. And so he pulled every bit of the money that he could and bought the back then it was the workbook and the tapes and that sort of thing. And he bought that and started going through it. And then he says, well, leadership is what I need to work on. And he went out, he figured out who are the leaders in the faith space that are doing better than me, and how can I get in touch with them and learn from them. So he started offering them $100 to have lunch with him, and he was able to meet with a handful of them, and he started to grow. And through the process, what he learned is that leadership was his thing. He'll tell you he's not a counselor. He's not, and he doesn't do what he's not strong at. So he worked on his strength of leadership, and he started building the leaders around him. And what he found is, as he built the leaders around him, the organizations grew at a much faster rate. So he started teaching other faith leaders how to do this. But more secular business folks were buying the information than the faith leaders. So he took another kind of a turn and started he became the leadership guru, but you're right. What he learned is he would go in and have this vision of what was going to happen on his timeline. Well, it's not necessarily his timeline. The timing is very important, but I've got to bring the people along and go where they are. You can't expect them to come to you. He learned that he had to go to them and seek first to be understood, or seek first to understand before trying to be understood.
Understood, yes.
And once he took that approach, then you start to see the growth in the organizations and his growth as a leader.
What triggered that story to me was your whole, and this is where I think we also, I mean, I was guilty of this for the longest time. And you see people messing up, and you think that you can teach them or explain them, but I don't know if it was Jay Shetty or who said it, but about a Buddha. He tells a story about a Buddha, and a young Buddhist comes in, and he's sitting there about to pour his coffee or his tea or whatever, and the Buddhist says, "I've been sitting here trying to meditate for hours, and I just can't do it. I give up. I want to leave." And the master Buddha is sitting there and pouring, and the tea is just running over the cup, and the young Buddha says, "What are you doing?" And he says, "You're the cup. You're full. There's no room for anything else, so it's just running over." But why I even brought that up is the push-pull and the string was really what I think we have to understand as leaders. We can't push against, we can't fight against, especially if there is a core team that we're already involved in. We're fighting, now we're always fighting a battle. You can't push or force them to do anything. You have to lead by example. You want them to trust them first. You want them to be honest and give guidance or give feedback on what's good or bad. Do it yourself. Tell them, be raw, be honest as a leader, and share those things. You have to lead first, which is the pull. If you by pulling, you're in front. They are following, but they have to follow by you doing the first thing. And that was the biggest thing for me was understanding that there's always the, and again, there's these simple phrases, these same phrases that a lot of people repeat over and over again. Lead by example, lead by example, lead by example. And it seems like it's just an abused, or even we've been told it so many times by the wrong people, or people who aren't leading by example, that we're like, well, screw that. You're not leading by example. I'm not leading by example. And then we get in this, but it literally is when you can lead by example, and then people come to you and they say, "Hey, I see I'm stuck here. I see you were stuck there and you were able to do this. How did you do it?" Now they're an open cup and they're ready to receive. But as leaders, lead. You see your team is not trusting, give them more trust. Show them trust. You see they're not bonding with each other, bond more with them. Do more team things with them. give more, and you're going to see that the people who really want to be part of that are going to do the same. They're going to, and I really think there's something deeper to marrying neurons and all of those things. And when you have the right, I think there could be the right people on a team, but if the leaders aren't guiding the boat, the wake is guiding the boat, uh, or moving the boat, you're just in for destruction. Like everybody's the captain, and there is no true captain at that point.
Yeah, the Maxwell saying there in the law of navigation is that anybody can steer the ship, but it takes a leader to chart the course, and the leader always has to be there charting that course. But a big part of this, again, it just goes back to understanding the voices so that we can connect better and have more meaningful conversations, because we have to have more meaningful conversations. And you bring up trust.
Yes,
I still think trust is the basis of everything, and
everything.
and you have to give it in order to get it. And we say things like, "Oh, well, they're going to have to earn my trust." Well, if you have that attitude, then basically you're keeping score, and that's not a good place to be. And I'm not saying that you give them the key
Mm.
to the vault right away necessarily, but you have to start empowering and entrusting early on to see what people can do. Because I want to challenge them to do things without me having to think for them. I want to see that they can think on their own. But the other thing about this, DJ, is when you really start working on your team and you're using these concepts to build a better culture around it, you're going to have to make some tough decisions. And once that clarity around the team comes in, sometimes those tough decisions are made for you because people will self-select. They're not going to feel
Yes,
comfortable being in a team that's really going to hold each other accountable, or that's really going to stick to be real focused on the right results and things like that. And they'll self-select. So some of those tough decisions are made for you. But as leaders, it is our job to build the right team around us that can accomplish whatever the end goal is. That's our whole purpose in life as leaders is to let's build this team together and let's accomplish this
as a
great
team.
thing together.
Yes. Talking about voices, Coach, I'm hitting you with the test I told you I was going to hit you with. So there's two. And anybody watching right now, or anybody who catches this later on. So obviously on Tuesday we did share the five voices, and these are the five voices, but this is the rules of team engagement, and this is understanding or knowing those voices and knowing those people on your team. So you have a teammate who so we'll just go with number one. So you have a teammate who we want to hear your opinion. We care about your opinion more than anything. No one is going to critique your idea immediately, and we appreciate your commitment to champion people and defend our values. Coach? Any guesses on what voice that might be?
The guardian.
Okay, okay. I think I know what that is, but I'm cheating because I know the numbers and I really studied the numbers. Um, but they 43% gives it away for me. The number two, dream big. It's okay to be wrong sometimes. We promise to ask clarifying questions, and we appreciate your commitment to integrity and ability to see the future in a way we can't. That's number two. Number three is please keep asking. Do you have a guess for number two?
Connector.
Okay. I think you're right there. Um, number three, please keep asking the difficult questions. Uh, we promise to stay engaged for as long as we can, and we appreciate your commitment to the truth and stewardship of our financial resources. Who's that sound like?
Nurturer.
Okay.
Appreciate commitment.
I feel like that's either Guardian or Pioneer, but I'm not sure.
Hmm.
And number four, please sell your ideas as passionately as you can. When we critique them, it's not personal, and we appreciate your energy, passion, and ability to communicate in a way that connects with
Well,
others.
now that one sounds like a connector too.
I,
I think I'm failing your test because it's a
that's
five
okay.
question test.
That's okay. That's okay. And I love these because I think, again, these are the different views, and they could be shared in different ways from our teams. But this is a way that people need to understand, that these can all come off in different ways. And then number five, please listen to everyone else's view first. We promise to put on Kevlar and bring challenge. We appreciate your capacity for strategic thinking and commitment to helping us win. So let's see what the real
So
answers
the
are.
Kevlar sounds kind of nurturer to me now. So
Well, let's see what they are. Here they are. So number one, I thought was nurturer. Number two is connector. Number three was guardian. Number four, or no, I'm sorry. Number two is what is it? Is that creative? Number two is creative.
oh yeah, dream big. That makes sense.
Number three is guardian. Number four is connector, and number five is pioneer. So again, if you have those kind of opinions, those certain things that are coming through your team, those are the voices that are coming through. Uh, Coach, you did good. I was confused on them as well, but I think I love that, and the reason I even used that slide or wanted that is I think they are all so closely, but it's understanding and needing to dig a little deeper. And I think even from those few, just three little statements, you can't really it shows that you can't dig deep enough to really know or understand the voice without asking more questions. Okay, you said you're big, but what? And then I think if you ask that person or those statements enough of the right questions, you can understand who they are.
Yeah,
But
well,
again,
and
this
that's
is
some of the other things that Giant provides. It'll show you language when you hear this type of language going on. This is probably what you're dealing with, and so there's a lot of tools and tricks that they provide to kind of help you spot it in yourself and others.
yes, yeah, exactly. No, I agree, and it's but it is so powerful. And so teams, again, we'll stick on teams and really finish in there because I think the change in the world we want to see, especially me and you, it has a lot to do with teams. It has a lot to do with people collaborating more, people being open to trusting more. Um, uh, you mentioned, and I'm completely, I'm guilty of this. My wife will say it to everybody. I think everybody pegs me for it now, but I am the one, and I guess it's because I always because of my voices now I understand why, but because of my craziness of my connector creative nurture voice that I come off very everything seems possible and most people are like, no, you're crazy. Like, what are you talking about? That I over would overdo it sometimes with uh with reacting too strong to if they were pushing back. And so once I could understand though that it wasn't me or them. It was just our voices together. But I always wanted people to believe in everything that I said. So I just believe everybody. Believe me, because I'm not going to lie to you. So I believe you completely. Like, let's just believe each other. Let's start there. Let's see what happens. Obviously, a lot of danger and a lot of burning goes on.
Yeah.
So it's a dangerous world to live in. Um, but I always enjoyed doing that because I feel like, and I don't think I'll ever change kind of approaching new relationships that way because again, I think there's so much of the world now because of just how we as humanity have just destroyed each other and beaten down each other to the point that you don't even know who to trust. I mean, shoot, media. We don't even know what media to now trust. So we really, I mean, to the point we don't even know what doctors to trust. What I mean, there used to be something that we could trust, and now we don't even know what to trust. And so I think they've done a great job of eliminating all trust and everybody feeling like you mentioned, where it's, oh, well, you're going to have to earn my trust. I think that's everybody now. How do we, as leaders, bring that all down, especially if we know that's on our team or if it is part of our leadership team? How do we bring, though, if we know they have that view, you're going to have to earn my trust, or can that work on a team? First off, as a coach, and if it can, how does that work on the team?
Yes. So that's a really difficult question, and I get it a lot. So the question that you're really getting down to is, can I really change somebody? Can I really make them a nicer person? And probably not. But what we can do is we can understand their point of view better so that we can get along and accomplish a lot of great things. So if they're fit with the culture, if you know what your culture is really all about, if you know your core 5 to 7 principles that you're going to build everything around, if you really know that, then that becomes your hiring mechanism right there. That answers a lot of your questions. Are they a fit for this organization from a principle value standpoint or not? And if one of your values is going to be, for example, honesty and integrity, then you have to hold to that. If you've made a mistake and somebody it turns out not to be honest, then that's an easy firing decision, right? So once you know what you and your team are all about, then you hire, fire, and make all critical decisions based around it. But when I think it was Nordstrom's, they were always kind of known as the company for great customer service. I don't know if I've ever been in one, so I don't know this from personal experience. But there was a story that somebody went in and they were like talking to the manager or the owner and said, "I can't believe how wonderful all of your people always are. It's just so wonderful. How do you train them to do this? How do you train them to be so nice?" And he goes, "We don't train them to do that. We just hire nice people." And so if you hire likable people, that's a big part of what we do. The Carnegie Institute, they did a study of leaders, and they said, what are the key attributes that would contribute to success over time? And it came down to knowledge, skills, and attitude. And when they went through all of the different things, only 15% of somebody's ability to succeed in an organization was knowledge and skills. 85% of it was attitude. Yet when we're hiring and building our team, what we typically do is say, I'm looking for someone who can. And I'm looking for skills. I'm looking for knowledge. And I don't put a whole lot of thought necessarily sometimes into attitude and what they're actually bringing. Are they that cultural fit or not? And that's probably where we have to reverse on the front end to make sure that we're filling our team with the right people and someone that's going to come in and contribute and fit in and be a good part of the team. So it's a process. It's not something you can just snap your fingers and fix. But the one of the most awful things we can do is leave someone on the team that isn't the fit for what we want this team to be. And a lot of times it's the easy decision because, man, hiring is tough. It's expensive. I got to onboard. I got to train. At least this is a warm body that can already kind of do the job. And that decision right there will hold your team back as much as any decision you can make.
Mm. If you guys need help with your teams, if you're feeling like your team is just not on the right message, reach out to Coach. Here, I'm going to give you where to find him at below, but really book a call with him. Even if you just book a call with Coach, just to really deep dive and understand yourself and take the disc test, maybe take the 5 voices. We will share it with you there too, but just so you can understand yourself and deep dive to really dive deeper into what might be going on with your team, what voices need to be on your team, what voices you're not listening to.
Well, and a while ago, let's go back to just you were talking about your tendency to be overly positive. Knowing that about yourself, it's not a terrible trait, right? I love being around positive, big thinking people, but under stress, as you're leading a team, as you get more stressed to accomplish things, that might come off as being that you're not thinking through it, that you're being too flippant, that you're just unserious, and so we can come across differently. And so we have to know that about ourselves and know when to tone it down and when to let it shine. And so again, behavioral change, it's vital to our own success. We have to understand how we behave and why, so that we can make some adjustments, and how we're showing up, how other people are seeing us, so we can make those adjustments. But it's not an easy process because we're changing habits that have been ingrained in us. We both love to talk about Dr. Lipton, but so we know that we're hardwired from the time we're like 6 or 7 years old to how we're going to behave. It's hard to change. It's been there for a very long time. And so it's a process, and through coaching, through your own personal reading and listening to the voices, whatever your tools you choose to use, it's worth the time. It's worth the effort. And just like, you told us, you started the story with Maxwell, just like he learned that quest for personal growth is the starting point for a lot of wonderful things in this life.
Yes, yes, and that's why, guys. That's why, again, this game of life, I believe, and I will say it until we no longer have the show. But the game of life is you versus you, and we're connected to all of these feelings just like this. You're either going to show shame or you're going to have pride. You can't have both. There's either pride or there's shame, hate or love, greed. Uh, or generosity, cruelty or sympathy. You can't feel both. They're connected in some way, and it's what you're feeding. But you also have to be aware of how you're feeling. And it's the self awareness that really will change this game for you. If you can understand who you are, what makes you tick, what gets you, what are your weaknesses? We all have weaknesses, and we'll kind of finish there because I think I had a video, it wouldn't upload. I don't know what was happening with this video, but maybe I'll try to share it another time. Steve Harvey video, amazing, amazing video. Um, but it's really just understanding. Uh, we all have weaknesses. We all have strengths. We all were given gifts. If we're not, and this Steve Harvey starts the video. If the alarm clock goes off on Monday morning or in the morning, and you don't want to go where you're going, then you're not aligned with your gifts. You're not following your gift. But you have to know what your gift is and understand yourself first and be very honest and very aware of these feelings. Like they're there. We have them all the time. We all have them. We can all relate to every single one of those feelings in different ways. And it's
And even the ones that sound negative, like greed, that's generally perceived to be negative. But I want you to be greedy with your time. I want you to be greedy with whom you spend your time. There's certain things that we should be a little bit selfish about as we're going through it. So you're right. Every one of those things, regardless if it looks negative or positive on that chart, we live those things all the time.
all the time. We can all relate. And that's what I really want to finish this with is getting the understanding that we all relate in some way. We all have battles. We all have demons we're fighting. We all have weaknesses. And we all have strengths. Focus on your strengths. Hire your weaknesses if you're a leader. Um, but learn yourself. You have to learn yourself. Learn yourself completely and never stop learning. Again, I said it and I'll keep saying it. But John Hewitt. I mean, he's accomplished a ton and he's a super amazingly smart guy. But he said himself, I mean, he's I think mid 70s now, or early 70s, and he said himself, if he stops learning, dig 6 feet and put him in there, because he's never going to stop learning. And I really think he's saying learning, and there's learning of the world itself and business and all of these things. But I think he's probably the greatest learner of himself too, because he's very aware of certain things. And he has been on the past few weeks really big on forgiveness. And I didn't wasn't really connecting those dots, but I think that's where, as leaders, but even more for ourselves. This guy here, showing him again, I'm going to keep these pictures there forever. That guy had, thought I had to forgive everybody else, but wasn't forgiving myself. I wasn't forgiving myself at all. I knew everything that I was doing. I knew when I said I was going to go work out and I didn't. I knew when I said I wasn't going to eat that and I didn't. I knew when I said I was going to do these things and I didn't. And so this is why this, to me, self-trust is the first secret of success. You can't trust yourself. You can't believe yourself. You can't. And again, but you have to forgive. We have to know. And that's where I was such a hard critic I was so hard on myself that if I latched it all, I was like, give it up, screw it, this diet's over. I suck again. That's it, or whatever. But it was really knowing that okay, you got two choices. You take 60,000. You're making 60,000 choices every day. You're an adult, at least. You're gonna screw up. Even an all-star baseball player only bat 30%. Hit 30% of those, or get 30% of those right, you're a Hall of Famer. Okay, so I just have to get 30% of 60,000 decisions right. That means 70% I'm getting wrong. Well, that's a lot of damn wrong decisions. And so if that's the truth, and those are the choices, and I'm constantly going here and here and then maybe here and then here and then here, we have to forgive ourselves. We have to forgive ourselves. We have to know ourselves and then forgive ourselves and then
And what
keep
gets really
working.
dangerous is you kept the fight going. You said you would try and then you would get down on yourself, but then you would get back up and fight again. Where it gets really dangerous is when you just start to see yourself as that picture that you showed. Once that becomes your self-image, you're not going to outrun your self-image. So for whatever reason, you never allowed that to become your self-image. You still could see yourself as something different, and that's not always easy to be able to see that. And so you're right. We have to show ourselves a little grace before we can start to show others a little grace on that side too.
It really, again, there's so many things. Just going to private school my whole life and hearing certain things, even as a kid, and then through these recordings and all of these different speeches and amazing people in their talks, they say certain things. Oh, you got to love yourself before you can love others. And again, people, they don't explain why. Why is that so important? How does that actually work? And
Put
you,
on your oxygen mask first, then you can help everybody else.
that's it. You gotta focus, because again, the game of life is you versus you. What coach was talking about, once you put that title on you, that label on you, you are now, as Les Brown likes to say it, trapped in the box. This is your box. This is all of our boxes, is what I believe. All of these colors are all of those colors that you've seen on that screen. And we can't fix or solve this, just like Les Brown says, when we're inside the box. The only way to fix this, imagine if you were inside this, how do you even know where to go? But from the outside, you can see the colors, and from different angles or perspectives, you have a different view. And they all mean something. But once you can actually understand this, and then you can look at it, just like the kids on TV. Kids on TV can look at this and say, okay, I see what's wrong. And they know by certain, because there's patterns. And so they can, okay, well, that looks like that needs to go there. And then there's a little pattern that could do. And they just keep repeating the same pattern. And most people are like, well, how did they do that? And then eventually it's solved just like that.
So,
But
did you see
it's
the world record just got broken? It's like 3 seconds somebody solved one.
it's understanding the patterns, guys. And that's what we're trying to do. Understand the patterns, understand yourself. Don't put a label on yourself. Don't get stuck inside the box. You don't want to be stuck inside this box. You want to understand what this box really can do for you.
And so what you're saying is understanding our patterns and the patterns that will lead to greater success are our cheat code.
That's the cheat code. That's it. I really think if you can learn the patterns of life, you can learn all the different views, and you can learn. Then it's just understanding and aligning and just finding the right groove, and you're there. But until you can get that, it starts with yourself. Don't There's only two things: control the controllables. The only two things you can control are your effort and your attitude. Keep the best attitude you possibly can, even in the worst situations. Always give 110%, and you can't fail. You will always hit a mistake or a problem, but you only fail when you give up and quit. If you don't quit, it's just a lesson. Keep learning. Just keep learning. Coach, anything to take us out, and then I really I hopefully we got it through, that we want everybody to understand and learn themselves first. We're going to deep dive more into teams, more into business. We're going to get next week. I don't think we have a guest planned yet, but I have a few people on ideas for next steps. I do want to highlight some more loyalty brands to get you all excited, and see if there's anything with, now that you might be learning yourself or wanting to experience this other world of business, entrepreneurship, experience, fear, um, a lot of sleepless nights, but a lot of unbelievable fulfillment, progress, joy, uh, and unbelievable challenges. It's there.
Some very
It's
high highs, some very low lows, and everything in between.
tons, but it is quite a journey. It's quite an experience. It's what makes life. Look, let's just say I don't know what the lifespan today is, but let's say it's 82, or I don't know, whatever it is that people are the average person lives to. Uh, we have in those years, if we can start to break those down, and like you and Becky, again, shout out to Becky Wolfe. If you guys didn't see the episode on Tuesday, connect with her. But you both said about the long game. You both mentioned about 5 years, 10 years. What do you want? You didn't say, what do you want your life to be like right now? And oh, it's not like that. Okay, give up and just give up. You said, what do you want it to be like in 3 years, in 5 years? And that's, I think a lot of people need to start there. If you're watching this and you don't have, you're hearing us say that, you heard Becky say that, you heard Coach say that, and you're like, oh, I don't know what I want to do tomorrow. Well, there's your first there's your first problem. you got you can't hit a target if you don't see the target. And so you have to have a goal or an idea in mind. So think about those things. Surround yourself with people who are going to talk about what are you going to do in the next 3 years? What are you doing in 5 years? What do you want to see in 10 years? Where do you want to see, how do you want your life to be? How do you want the world to be? How do you want your community to be? How do you want your family to be? How do you want all of these things to be? Surround yourself with those people.
And remember, it starts with health, physical and spiritual, your relationships, your family, friends, and relationships, your wealth. What are you building for the future? And then let's work on the job, the business that you're going on now. But all those areas matter, and there should be goals and dreams in each of those areas. And then we paint that picture. You're writing your story, and then we can chart your course to get there.
Yes, write your story. In the end, y'all, write your story. Coach nailed it. Every day, I truly believe that each day, if you can think of it the way I do, and again, these are just mindset things. These are really just the way I believe. I believe that life is a game. No, I see it honestly as a game, and I see every day is a new. It's an there we have no clue what yesterday was just a memory. Tomorrow will never actually happen. It doesn't even exist. Only that matters is right now. And in this 24 hours, this new day, I woke up, here I am, here we all are. It's Thursday, end of the week. Again, whatever you did from January 1st to now, if you didn't make all the right decisions, crap. Forgive yourself, and what are you going to do next? What is the next 3 months? What is the next 6 months? What is the next 3 years? What is the next 5 years? What do you want it to be? And then just start adding little habits to get there. But it's
yeah. And the habits are finding your pattern. What is the pattern of success for me? But you mentioned you were kind of talking about starting the day. My friend Coach Michael Burt, his bestseller, Flip the Switch. He says every night at midnight the scoreboard resets. And we're going to go at it 110% every time, every day. But every night at midnight, that clock resets and we get a whole new chance to do it better than we did before.
Amen. So until next time, y'all, the Robinhood Capitalists, we really just want you to know yourself, love yourself, forgive yourself. Know that you are enough. You're God's greatest creation. Anything you say or do, be careful, because it will come back. And so give out good, keep feeding the good wolf always. And until next time, until Tuesday, have a great weekend, everybody. Good wolf, we're out.
See you Tuesday.
I'm always on the red eye. This time around, it's not even about getting paid. I'm just